So Pat McAfee put out a tweet yesterday. It currently has 13 million views, and he just completely bashed the Colts, and rightfully so. McAfee, he said beef with this organization. He's a season ticket holder. He will no longer be one. He's talked about the Colts on his TV show when no one else talks about the Colts. Just to see what has happened to him just has been really just the icing on the cake. The Colts have made the playoffs twice in the last 10 years. They haven't even won the division. Even the Jags and the Titans have won it multiple times. This team has absolutely just zero accountability, zero chemistry. And yesterday, after losing to the 2-13 Giants, who are trying to lose, I mean, when is enough enough? Changes have to be made. And I know I don't have a say. I don't have a voice. This video is probably only going to get like 3,000 views. Pat McAfee's tweet got 13 million views and counting. But I think the least I can do is just voice my frustration. I will read this tweet and then I'll give you guys my reaction to it. It's a very long one, so just bear with me, man. I've said what I believe to be the truth about the team, and a bunch of Colts fans on the internet were trying to get me booed out of the city. Current players who won nothing during their entire tenure started using me in my face to try and paint me as the enemy in the city I've committed my life to. And in the end, everything went just like I effing said it would. In the biggest moment, everybody with a brain knew they'd crack, and they did. A blind person could see the red flags on this team. Work ethic questions never happens on a good team. Preparation commitment questions never happens on a good team. Late to meetings never happens on good teams. Late to skipping treatment never happens on good teams. The franchise QB tapped out of a game on a third down in the red zone because he was tired never happened in the history of the NFL. That's literally the only thing you need to tell someone who knows ball, and they can tell you everything about this team. So, yeah, he did call Anthony Richardson, called out Shane Steichen, Jim Irsay, Chris Ballard, everyone in this organization. The Denver game was one thing. Could have went up 20-7. JT drops the ball on the 1-yard line. That game was, like I said, it was just terrible, man. But then the Colts losing to the Giants is a whole different ball game, man. There's going to be at least one big change coming. 2021, the Colts needed to win one of their final two games to make the playoffs. They failed to do so. They lost at home to the Raiders, and then they lost to the Jags in Duval, of course, who had the worst record in the league. I think they had 2 or 3 wins. I don't remember exactly. Carson Wentz was traded, remember, to Washington. But we saw the head coach and the GM keep their jobs. But now, does Jim Irsay let Chris Ballard go? If he lets Ballard go, he's under contract, so he's going to be paying 2 GMs. If he lets Steichen go, Steichen's under contract. He's going to be paying 2 head coaches. So I have a feeling that Jim Irsay is going to respond if he hasn't already. I haven't seen anything, but I have a feeling he's going to respond to the team's failure of a season. Last year, the Colts went 9-8 with Gardner Minshew, a backup quarterback. They had a chance. They're 20 yards away from winning the division. And then they go under 500. Richardson plays poorly. The defense was terrible. This was one of the worst defenses I can remember the Colts having. That performance against the Giants was the worst defensive performance I've seen in my life from the Colts. Tackling issues, guys were jogging. I mean, it's just so frustrating. I know it's a game. I don't want to say anything crazy, but it was embarrassing. Yesterday was the first time in my life, even after we lost to the Jags. But yesterday was the most embarrassed I've ever been being a fan of this team. 10 years and not one divisional title under Chris Ballard. We've made the playoffs twice. Andrew Luck was the best quarterback I've ever seen. I've seen Peyton Manning, obviously. I live in New England. I've seen Tom Brady. I've never seen a quarterback like Andrew Luck. Came in as a rookie, took the most garbage Colts team ever to 11 wins. I mean, what Luck did was remarkable. They couldn't build around him. Peyton Manning, they only got 1 Super Bowl. And of course, we had to deal with facing the Patriots dynasty with both Manning and with Luck, but still. Anthony Richardson has a lot of potential. You talk to anybody who knows anything about football that's relevant in the world, they'll tell you that Anthony Richardson's a special young player. But you wouldn't think so because he's got under a 50% completion with the Colts. He's got more interceptions than touchdowns. And, of course, Steichen made things worse by saying he was sore instead of saying he's got serious back spasms, which the Colts had to come out and say because I'll throw myself into that. Me and many other Colts fans were skeptical about Richardson's not necessarily durability, but his toughness. You're in a must-win situation to keep your playoff hopes alive, and you're sitting out against the New York Giants because you're sore. But now it's like, oh no, he's actually has something serious going on. So the Colts just overall have been terrible, and I just don't think I've seen a worse season than this. Just given the circumstances, it looked like the Colts were actually building something special. I mean, last year, again, 9 wins. Richardson's going to be full healthy coming into the start of the season. Bring back most of their free agents. The draft, Leatu Latu, the first defensive player off the board, Adonai Mitchell, Anthony Gould, of course, a couple of good, promising Goncalves and Bortolini. It seemed like this was going to be a good draft, and it really hasn't been. Adonai Mitchell can't catch the ball. He can get open, he just can't catch the ball. He's done nothing this season. Brian Thomas Jr. is over 1,000 yards. Brock Bowers, who we did try to get up in Ballard's defense, is over 1,000 yards. And like Malik Neighbors, like those guys weren't attainable. But Brian Thomas Jr. For those of you that don't know, my name is Brian Thomas, not Junior, but just Brian Thomas. So I wanted Brian Thomas. I would have taken him at 15. They took Latu. I get that edge rushers are more important than receivers, but if the Colts had Brian Thomas Jr., could you imagine him, Josh Downs, and Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce? That's filthy, man. They took Latu, who was he even? Did he even play? I know he played, but didn't even see him do anything. He did nothing. He literally did nothing against the Giants. Brian Thomas Jr. caught a touchdown, another great game. And he's in our division to make things even worse. So Chris Ballard, all he says is, "I trust our guys." It's the same team every single year. And then Shane Steichen, just from what I've seen, he just doesn't have this locker room. And in his defense, he did look devastated. Looked like had tears in his eyes after that loss. And I know Steichen wants to win, but sometimes you got to look at guys and say they can be a great offensive coordinator and a poor head coach. Now, Steichen, I do want to give him one more season, but if the Colts can get Mike Vrabel, I think they should do it. I think they should do it because the Colts do not go into New Jersey and MetLife Stadium against the 2-win Giants with playoff implications on the line to keep your season going and give up, what was it, 43 or whatever we end up giving up to the Giants, their most since 2015. The most the Giants had scored before this was against us with Daniel Jones, if you guys remember that game. They needed that to go to the playoffs. So Gus Bradley, haven't called his name out once. Pure garbage. Pure garbage. The Colts have talent, or at least enough talent, to where they should be good defensively. Everyone came back. All their free agents came back, like Kenny Moore, for example, Julian Blackman, who didn't really have a good year, but still, like, it was essentially the same roster. And Gus he doesn't blitz. He doesn't send pressure. And Drew Lock was just standing in the pocket with all day to throw, completing passes, completing touchdowns, perfect passer rating, and then, of course, the scramble where he just got out. So it's not all in Gus Bradley, but a lot of it is. I don't think Gus Bradley is very good. So I would bring in Vrabel. Steichen, I do want him to get one more year, but he's just got to be better, man. I'm sick of losing every game. And then in the press conference, he's like, it starts with me. I've got to be like, eventually he just has to actually be better. I mean, how can you be a good head coach and this happen? So, I mean, he's the head coach. Like, DC is one thing, OC is one thing, Jim Bob Cooter, but you're the head coach. So I like Shane Steichen. Like, I really do like Shane Steichen, and I'm rooting for him, man.